Hello and welcome to the stream. We got Mark 2. How are we all doing tonight? It's a big night tonight for New York. I'm just gonna quickly check the audio's coming through, okay? Hello and welcome to the stream.
That'd be really funny if the audio wasn't coming through.
That's happened before. I just moved my mic over too. I got this little lapel mic I wired into my computer. That's my mic on my desk. So welcome to the stream. The channel's done some pretty big numbers the last few weeks. The first new video, the Trump video, got 13,000 views, which has been really awesome. The new one's it's starting to, it'll get there. It's doing its best. But yeah, no, it's exciting stuff. We have a lot of really exciting videos coming into the future. Next month in July, we'll have 2 really exciting videos. One regarding the Biden
How many
presidency.
views are you at, by the way?
What? The first one's at 13,000. The new one's at 150. 160 according to the live analytics. We got 7 subscribers out of it. So yeah, it's just I don't think the topic is too like niche, but we knew that it was meant to, generally we're gonna do one big video a month, like the 20-minute video, like the one that went up 2 weeks ago, and then a small video, which is more just something to put up for the other. These videos the big ones take a very long time to produce. So the next video coming up is a video covering the Biden presidency, mainly the first 2 years, and then we'll have another video covering the year of the 5 House speakers, or 5 House speaker nominees. I guess they weren't only 2 speakers technically, but either way, fun stuff coming up. So stay tuned for that. So welcome to the stream. You're welcome to use the chat. I guess I'll shift over to the view over. Just bring it over here. Hey Mark, do me a favor, just say something real quick. I just want to make sure we're getting audio from
Something.
So welcome to the stream.
Something. Anything.
Over to the
making noise.
Just bring it over here.
Got it.
Hey Mark, do me a favor, just say something real quick. I just want to make sure we're getting audio from
Something.
So welcome to this. Okay, you didn't just say something again, right?
No, I did not.
Okay,
I just
then
heard myself.
the audio is good. Okay, good. All right, so then we are good to go. Welcome. So let me pull up the. I gotta get a fan for this. I have a little space I stream in, but the air conditioner. There's no vent in here for the air, which it's technically a closet. So here, let's go over the big ticket election board. We have the past results via jacksonjude.com, map.jacksonjude.com. Great website. If you haven't been on it before. I used it for a lot of the maps that I didn't want to have to sit there and draw out. These were pre-made maps, so it made things much easier. And they come from Wikipedia. You can zoom in on the individual states and House races. You can see how different things shift over time. Then we also have the actual results. Probably matter. Just give me 1 sec. I'm actually getting a phone call. We'll be right back, everybody. Sorry about that. We're back, everyone. Just had to deal with a quick phone call. So anyway, we have the actual results, which are pretty important, I would think. New York Times, we got Colorado. We have, for some reason, a second one of these. And yeah, in Colorado, if you don't know, Boebert is up. A lot of Democrats have been trying to cross over. I believe Colorado is an open primary, which means that. Oh, come on, don't be like that. Which means that basically, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you can vote in either one. New York Times is bullying me. I'm not very happy with that. There we go. So, that's where we're at. We're just waiting. Polls close in 5 minutes for New York. Colorado, I don't know if we'll still be streaming by then, just because there's a lot going on today. Only half of Colorado. Why don't? Oh, duh. I'm zoomed in on Bobert. Okay. Sorry guys, it's been a while since I've done one of these. And then see that's weird. Like Colorado, you get all the counties, district, but then on New York, you only get the one county, and there's actually been so Westchester County, I believe it is. That's probably why there's. Oh no, there it is. Westchester, Bronx, and Westchester. So Westchester County is a very Jewish county, and there's almost been twice as many early votes. I believe it was 11,000 versus the Bronx, which is 6,000, which would be Bowman's stronghold. That's his stronger area. Latimer is hoping for a sweep in Westchester, which will give him the election. So those are the two areas to really watch for. Mark, I know you're not as familiar with this race, but do you have anyone in the chat? No. If you're watching and you want to ask any questions in the chat, go ahead. We'll be monitoring that for any questions, just to let us know. Let's minimize that. So
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I am not familiar with these races at all. I've been way too busy with New Jersey politics.
yes.
But all I know is that Josh, you told me that a member of the squad was going down, and so I just had to join in.
Yeah, so Bowman is a member of the. Hey, I just found out this channel a few days ago through the video on the Trump presidency. Excellent music choices and great work. But thank you. Yeah, so it's a big night for in the I guess for the Democratic Party because this has been a proxy war for the pro-Israel and anti-Israel parts of the party. And without going into the actual nature of the conflict from a political standpoint, Biden's been under a lot of pressure to essentially turn against Israel. Progressives have been very critical of Israel and how it's handled the war, and um, Latimer has been given a lot of AIPAC support by pro-Israel Democrats, by Jews, by who support that. So it's been very contentious. And if Latimer sleeps tonight, Biden may feel more pressured to support Israel because lately he's been kind of like, on one hand doing one thing, on the other hand doing the other, and it's been kind of awkward for him to try to balance these two things. It's on one hand he wants to support Israel enough that a war doesn't break out with Lebanon, but on the other hand, if he supports Israel too much, he may lose voters. And we saw in Michigan, for example, that a lot of voters voted uncontested in spite of Biden because of that as a protest vote. So Biden is watching very carefully tonight to see just exactly, I guess, how strong this, I guess, anti-Israel backlashes towards progressives, and this is like a proxy race for that. And New York, especially, where the Jewish vote is very influential in the politics of New York, it could very well decide how the House races go up in 2024, just because of that. If not for New York in 2022, Republicans may have ended up not taking the House. And in New Jersey in 2021, in the governor race, the Jewish vote in Lakewood actually decided the race because Murphy had been relatively lax with allowing during COVID with the Jewish community there, and in turn, while they didn't endorse him as they generally vote Republican, they also the leaders of that community also did not endorse the Republican candidate, who I don't remember his name at the moment, but they didn't endorse the Republican candidate, and in turn, so a lot of them just stayed home, and that gave Murphy a slight edge, and ultimately may have won him that election, and what otherwise could have been a flip for the Republicans. So the Jewish communities of New York, the progressives, there's a lot of things at play, and it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out, both for right now and overall. And Prime will be again in the chat says it's a really tricky issue from a political standpoint. No matter what he does, he upsets part of his support base, and that is absolutely correct. The Democrat Party is, and especially under Biden, has been a very large tent, and unfortunately for Biden, when the general base supports one thing, but just enough voters support something else that even though they wouldn't vote for Trump, they might stay home or might otherwise vote third party. It could cost him an election that is otherwise very winnable because of that Big Tent. If all your moderates come in but your base doesn't, you could lose. I mean, look at Romney. He was someone who very much appealed to the center in how he ran his election, despite being called a far-right lunatic, which aged very poorly given where the Republican Party was going relative to Mitt Romney. But Mitt Romney at the time was a relatively moderate candidate, as was John McCain. And despite that, they couldn't get their the Republican base out. There was very little excitement for these men, and as a result, they lost. 2012 could have been winnable with the right candidate and with the right messaging, but people just weren't excited. And with that, polls have closed in the state of New York, so we are expecting votes to be coming in any second. And very out of practice for
Polls
having to
closed
talk
in
live.
Colorado too.
They're closed in Colorado?
Yeah,
Really? At 9 o'clock? Oh, right. Because I'm thinking.
I'm already seeing the automatic results
Oh wow. Let me reload. I'm so
or
used
the
to the.
uncontested.
Yeah. I'm so used to New Jersey where I'm not used to thinking that polls close at 9 o'clock as being the first. Okay, so they've already called the Republican race in New York for Miriam Pfizer. This was not surprising. She was uncontested. So now we're just waiting to see our first votes for Jamal Bowman and George Latner, and we'll get an idea where this is going. Again, we already know at least 17,000 early votes were cast between the two counties. 11 in the pro-Latimer Westchester base, and in the Bronx, we had Bowman. Bowman actually held a rally in the southern Bronx, which is kind of funny because that's not his district. It was his district originally, I believe, but it's no longer his district. We could actually take a look at New York in 2020. I said, as it doesn't open. Okay, 2020. Where is New York 16 on this map? Yeah, Bowman was a little more in. I think Bowman was a little more in the south at the time. Nothing in Colorado. Oh, wow, they've almost got all of New. Oh, there we are. And Bowman
There
currently
we
is
are.
leading 2,000 votes. But remember, this is the Bronx, and these are likely the early votes. We still have no votes out of Westchester, so this isn't surprising. It's nothing to get too excited about for either person. These are purely votes coming out of a stronghold, which is again the Bronx, and it's a little under half of what is expected to be the early vote. So this is just a big ballot drop for Bowman in his strongest area and from the early votes. So there's nearly twice as many of these votes we're waiting for out of Westchester in terms of what's actually going to be coming out. But right now, this is about half of the early votes from the Bronx. So, yeah. We got more from the chat in the meantime. Primal B, how much stock do y'all place in the polling accuracy for 2024? I personally don't trust the polling much, as both sides keep talking about how over and over again, how over it is for the other. Some of the results have been really odd. Trump being within 10 points of Biden. Where is Trump 10 points within Biden? Primal B, if you wouldn't mind telling us what polls you're specific, like in a state, in a national vote. But to answer your question, I think the polls are honestly probably going to be some of the worst we've seen. If 2016 underestimated Trump, 2022 overestimated Republicans, and honestly, they're just kind of a mess. Oh, did we get more votes? No. We don't really have a good way to know. Hope my light's not going to go out. That'd be embarrassing. We don't really have a way to know what the error is yet. Like if you were watching the polls, there was a lot of talk about flooding the polls in 22, especially in Pennsylvania. I was in Pennsylvania at the time, so I heard a lot about it. A lot of talk about like are these Republican like garbage polls, but even like Polls for Progress, which was a left-leaning poll, had Blake Masters leading, and that was actually why at the time I had thought, well, Blake Masters might actually win because if they're saying it, I wouldn't expect them to overcorrect towards being pro-Republican. If anything, I'd expect that they'd try to overcorrect to try to push a more Democrat-friendly result. So honestly, I don't know. I think Trump's being overrepresented in the polls, but I don't necessarily mean Trump's going to. I honestly think that means Trump's going to lose. I just don't think the polls are accurately representing the overall populace. So even if they're right in saying, say, Trump's going to win or Biden's going to win, I don't necessarily think the polls themselves are accurate, regardless if they're right. If that makes sense. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Well, I know for one, Trump is leading in Virginia right now,
Right.
so that's according to the polls. And I don't think that Trump is going to win in Virginia. I don't. And the weird thing is, like, like I think you mentioned this when you were talking about the polls, but I really think it's going to be a state to state thing. And I think that there's going to be some states where Trump is underestimated and Biden is overestimated. I think there's some polls where it's going to be vice versa. It's really hard to say because we're no longer I it's how do I put this? We're no longer in like an overall trend for a
Right.
given election cycle. We're in a bunch of mini trends. We have a bunch of mini trends where
Exactly.
some swing states can go left, whereas other swing states can go to the right.
Mhm.
And
And
we definitely saw this in the 2022 midterms,
mhm.
where we saw some states like Florida and Kentucky go to the right, where we saw other states like Wisconsin and Ohio go to the left.
Ooh, wait, hold on. Breaking news.
It's
New NBC is doing a much better
it's
job.
really weird. Oh, we got more votes. We got more votes.
Yeah, I was about to look at that. NBC is currently at 23% in, and unlike the New York Times, stuck at 3. But yeah, that was another ballot dump on New York Times. But on NBC, we actually can see that the overall that we're actually getting votes in from Westchester finally, which has given us a total lead of George Latimer at 62%, Bowman at 37.7%. So I guess spoiler alert if you're watching, if you're only on the New York Times, but that's where things are gonna go. I don't know why the New York Times is so slow, but yeah, right now votes are beginning to trickle in on NBC's feed, showing that Latimer is currently in the lead. He's leading 68% in Westchester, Bronx. It's Bowman at 79.8%. But these were the early.
Still that one ballot. Yeah.
Yeah, those early, and also today's votes, because only 11,000 of the Westchester votes would have been early voting, from what I had heard on the news this morning when I was looking at the. But yeah, no, there's been a big trend towards what I guess you could call neutrality in states, where states are voting based on their more local races than they are on hard partisanship. This is something that was common in, say, the 2002 midterms, the 1998 midterms, the 2000 presidential election, where it was very localized. There was no partisan swing in 2000. It was nearly a 50-50 Senate and it was a 50-50 Senate and a near tight House going, just like Biden had now. So Americans were, it was very partisan, like the vibe, but the actual politics were, a lot of Americans were kind of in the middle. They weren't really they were kind of equal. They wanted a pretty flat. They were pretty flat partisan wise in the election results, and I think that's what we're seeing now. The House flipped Republican by just the slimmest of margins, but the Senate has remained at a 51-49 coalition wise, or block wise, I mean. So, but we haven't. It's been 4 years since the last real sweep. Um, So a little bit more votes are coming in for Latimer out of Westchester. We have 400. We only have 500 votes. So far, New York Times is showing. Now votes are starting to come in. I'm guessing they're going to start trickling in. I don't know why the New York Times is so slow, because NBC had a big ballot dump and they appear to have stopped for now, unless it needs to be refreshed. Hillary Clinton actually endorsed George Latimer, which isn't that surprising given she is not a friend of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, especially after the whole Bernie Sanders thing. What's going on?
So I know there's a lot. I know
Ooh, in Colorado, Lauren Boebert's behind. Only
Bobert's behind.
500 votes though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, New York Times says she's ahead.
I just looked at the New York Times. It says she's behind. How many votes are in? 524, right?
I don't know. Maybe they hadn't load.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not loading for me.
But yes, this is a very big night for defining the Democratic Party. Really odd, such a poll put Trump within 10 points of Biden in New York. Sorry for forgetting the location. Do you think New York is as competitive as the polls are showing, Mark?
Do I think New York is as competitive?
Right, specifically the
Um,
state of New York.
what? Okay. What's the competitiveness
Do you think it's within
of New
10?
York actually? Because I know it's more competitive for Trump. Do I think New York is within 10? Right now, yes. Will it be for the election? I don't think so.
Okay.
But
It
a
was
lot of the problem with these polls right now is that they're too early to tell.
They are, and it was
I think that's the big thing.
in 2020 it was 23 points. In 2016 it was 23 points again. So I mean that we're talking about a very big swing for Trump. For it to swing, if it swings 13 points, I mean, I don't know. I don't see it today.
Well, what was it for 2020?
It was a 23-point gap. So about 37 to 60 or so.
Hmm.
Yeah, 37 to 60 exactly. I think
Well,
Trump's
you look at the
opening
midterms and
offices in
how
Minnesota, I think it's a mistake. I think he needs to be much more time in Georgia, Arizona, and Wisconsin. He could go to Virginia if he really wants to, but Minnesota is a complete waste of time.
yeah, I agree.
I still can't believe Wisconsin, the
Minnesota's the pipe
Libertarians
dream.
did again. What?
Minnesota's a pipe dream. It's
It
kind of
is.
like how Democrats see Texas.
No, it definitely is. I don't think Minnesota is super competitive. Republicans, it's like the red. It's the red mirage state. If Texas is the blue mirage, sometimes they can do decent and it creates false hope, like in 2016. But in all honesty, the 2016 race there, it was a fluke. I mean, it was within two, but at the same time, Stein took a point and a quarter. McMullen took a point and an 80%, 1.8%. I mean, Johnson took 3.84%. And if we skip ahead, almost all of those votes that didn't vote for Clinton at the time ended up back in Biden's share. So it wasn't so much that Trump was making Minnesota competitive. He gained almost no voters in the percentage wise. That's 1999. That's the wrong year. In 2020 he won 45%. In 2016 he won 44.93%. But Clinton had 46, and going into 2020 she had 52. So all those people who voted third party just came home. And I don't and I could say Michigan, I could see it, or Wisconsin, where it was less than a point. It was what was that, like 0.6? It was 0.6, and Jorgensen, the Libertarian, won 1.17. So if you gave Trump even half of Jorgensen's voters, he would have won Wisconsin. But same with Arizona, same with Georgia. But you can't say the same about Minnesota. I think Wisconsin, Arizona, and Georgia, if Trump convinces them to come home, convinces the people in the Libertarians or people who vote third party to just come home to him, and there's a real chance he could win those states. But if he keeps isolating them, then he's in trouble. How do you think people moving between states will affect this election compared to the past ones? Well, let's just look at Florida. And if people are going to ask, well, why aren't we talking about the live result? It's because they're taking forever. Even NBC got that one dump, and now they've been sitting at 26%. So we gotta wait. Like Florida's been trending, but going back to the House race there, if we take the overall that's New York. Hi, New York. If we look at Florida in 22, Florida was. They don't show the popular vote. That's weird. Margins, national view, popular vote shown. No, that's not right. Alright, whatever. Florida trended Republican in 2022. A lot of people moved down there. It was a historic victory for the Republican Party at the time. But, a lot of that had to do with gerrymandering. But going to other states, like, say, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. Are there real Republicans are all going to we're all going to Florida, but are there any good examples of Republicans leaving a state and it affecting the outcome? Oh, Latimer has taken the lead. The ballot dump came in. So New York Times is now caught up. It's 13,000 to 8,000. That's pretty much all the early voting between the two. I believe it was 17,000, and we're at 22. So all the early votes are pretty much in now. We're just waiting on day of votes. But as of now, Latimer is leading.
Boebert also stormed ahead.
Did she? Oh wow, yeah, she really did. Still, she's under
Yep.
50%, which is not. And a lot of Democrats are voting for her, but she barely won the election in 2022. She almost lost. It was within, I think, a few hundred votes, if even. So the fact that she just keeps getting hammered by opposition, either within the party or outwards, in a safe Republican seat otherwise, not a good sign for Lauren Boebert. She's controversial, even within her own party. Wow, we had 5 people watching, and now we have 1. They just dipped. They got a better offer. It's funny. Bye, guys. But yeah. That's okay. Unplug this. So we're at 60. So, anyone else have any questions in the chat? I think this also does show that, although it was kind of a meme that, that APAC had wasted a lot of money in some of the earlier races, they are coming back. Wow, AOC is 82% ahead of her opponent. It's not even close there. So yeah, I think we can call it proclam. I don't think there's much left to say about that in terms of the actual math. I mean, we're 26% in, and at the current margins, the Westchester County is nearly twice as large. Just if people are curious, it's not twice as large. Oh, kind of. But yeah, it's about the amount of votes. Bronx is 40% in at 5,000, and we're at 20. So yeah, put it this way, it's not going to get better for Bowman.
This is set up to be an epic blowout.
It really is. A lot of people were saying APAC and pro-Israel politicians couldn't quote unquote buy the election. That it's so unpopular, but the reality is a lot of I think half of Bowman's funding came from out-of-state voters. This wasn't like a quote unquote bought election. Um, you know, Bowman wasn't that popular to begin with. It's worth noting. Bowman posted 9/11 conspiracy theories on the web, and he posted he posted 9/11 conspiracy theories. He was doing all kinds of weird stuff. He pulled the fire alarm. I mean, this was a guy. He in his final days of campaign, he campaigned in an area that's not even part of his. That can't even vote for him. I mean, I don't know what he was doing, but I he was a teacher apparently, or a college principal, or I mean high school principal, not college. He was a high school principal, I think, or a middle school principal, and I don't know how, but yeah, he's done. Put it this way.
There's going to be so much copium by the time that this primary election ends. By this one election alone, there's going to be a lot of copium.
Minus asks, wait, is AOC fighting to become a senator of New York? Right now, no, but it's possible in 2024, but I believe there is a race up that year that she may try to run. I could see her running in I want to say 28. Let me see. Senate, select map, past elections. Alright, 22. There we go. 2022, there was a New York race. 2018, yeah. So 2024 and 2028 will have Senate races in New York. So keep an eye out for 28. I don't think she's established enough to run yet. I want to say Schumer is up. Yeah, Schumer's up in 28. So he may want to retire at that point. Schumer is how old? Why don't they ever just say how old he is? He's 73, so he's going to be 80. Or 77, maybe? By the next election, so he may not want to run again at that point. He may decide to call it a day and retire, or he may just not be able to run again for other reasons. He may not, he may just not have the drive and health to do so. So it's possible there'll be an open seat in 28, and AOC being young and New York being a state that she could ingrain herself in now may take the shot. I don't think she'll run in 24. In the 2020 race, 2018 race, I mean, it was Gillibrand. She's new. I believe that was her first election in the state. Was she in 2012? Oh, no, she's not new. She was in 20... That's right. She was in 2012. Because then in 2006, it was Clinton. That's what it was. So she's been there a little while, but she's younger. So I don't think you're going to be able to oust her. She's newer, I should have said, not new. I don't know why I thought she was that new. But yeah, we now have more votes coming in on NBC, more votes coming in on New York Times. Colorado, Colorado counts so quickly. 53% in, Boebert's still in the lead. She'll probably take it. I mean, what are your takeaways from all Dems and Reps primaries so far for Congress and president. Mark, what are your takeaways from the primary results we've seen so far this year?
From the ones that I've really
Mm-hmm.
seen, um, I can't believe I'm astonished by how many of the abstained or the uncommitted votes there were against Biden, especially in places like Minnesota and Michigan, when you look at the heavy Muslim populations that are there because of Biden's pro-Israel or lean to pro-Israel stance. And you look at Texas, for example, on Super Tuesday. You look at the most of Texas favored Biden, but you look at the border counties there, and the amount of uncommitted votes for Biden, it was insane. Um, I'm
But do you think those
trying to think of the other ones
translate
that we looked.
to the general?
Does it translate to the general?
Yeah.
Um, I think it really depends. I think it really depends on if like the conflict ends and how peacefully it ends too. I,
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
this is kind of out of Biden's hands right now.
it is, and we're looking at Lebanon is looks like Lebanon may go to there might be a war in the south part of Lebanon, and that'll be more of a traditional war compared to what's going on in Gaza, where it's very urban and very high civilian population, but versus southern Lebanon, which is mostly military, which is mostly the military of Hezbollah, militant group of Hezbollah who's down there. It's not as compact. So Biden has said from day one he would support Israel if it went to Lebanon, full stop. If Hezbollah starts it, Biden's going to end it. And I don't know how that translates, but people may not be happy about that policy. Um, and it could affect him more with this. As we've seen tonight, Israel is a big part of this election. We were just asked, do you think Haley and Kennedy voters will support in November? Well, Haley voters will probably vote for Trump overall. Some will vote for Biden, but the Kennedy supporters will vote for Kennedy. He's on the ballot. He's not a primary candidate. He'll be on the ballot just like Ross Perot or what was his name? Ralph Nader. He's a candidate just as legitimate as Trump and Biden in terms of his positioning on the ballot. Do I think he's going to win? Absolutely not. And I don't really want him to. But he will be on the ballot and he will have a major part in some of these elections. Ross Perot, Ralph Nader in Florida may have genuinely cost Gore the election. It's hard to say. Jill Stein in Wisconsin and Michigan in 2016 may have cost Clinton the election. It's the Libertarian Party in 2020 may have cost Trump the election. It definitely cost Republicans the election in Georgia Senate. So it's kind of hard to say for sure what the exact effect will be of a Kennedy on the ballot. I don't know how many people would genuinely vote for Kennedy over Trump who were Trump voters prior, but I could see it shrinking the pool of overall independents. And these are independents who aren't committed to Biden. And when you're a incumbent, you need these committed voters, these independent voters who are generally leaning towards you. Because you're always going to have your base, but as a challenger, it's easier to attack, it's easier to sway in people who aren't already on your side than it is to convince people that, hey, I've been president for 4 years, you should vote for me again. That's something Trump had failed to do in 2020. He didn't really make a good case for the independents to shift back, to come back to him. And so, even if they didn't necessarily vote for Biden, even if they just stayed home, there just weren't the votes. So that will be the effect Kennedy has. I don't think it really matters who he takes. It's just whether or not he shrinks the overall base. Vivek supporters will probably vote Trump. I think Vivek supporters are pretty confidently going to vote for Donald Trump. Um, I agree. Mark, what do you think? Do you think the Vivek Ramaswamy voters may swing Biden?
The Vivek voters may swing Biden. I
No,
think if
someone
anything,
wrote they're definitely going to vote for Trump, and I'm like, yes, I think we can
yeah,
confidently say we can
I think if
bet the house on
anything,
it.
I think if anything, the Nikki Haley voters are going to swing for Biden. You look at these registered Democrats that were voting for Haley over Trump,
Yeah,
just to try and get Trump off the ballot. But
right, but I don't necessarily think that's indicative of the overall. Like these are like look at the Boebert race, right? Like let's take a look at that. How many? A lot of they called it. A lot Boebert will
yeah, maybe
be
she
the
just did
nominee,
that, yeah.
but a lot of Democrats crossed over just to vote against her. But you can't really hold the fact that she didn't get 50% of the vote against her in it to an extent because so many people who weren't going to vote her anyway came into this race they really wouldn't normally be part of. So that like open primary crossover effect makes it very hard to really use some of these numbers because, like, if say 20% of Haley voters go to Biden, right? And you take that out of the, let's say with those numbers, but Trump can't win, let's say Wisconsin. But the question is, were those 20% should we count those 20% as part of the Republican Party, or were they Democrats who just voted for Haley? Because if so, they don't really count for anything.
True. True. Because they
They're
were going to vote for Biden anyway, whether they
right.
voted for Haley or
So
Vivek
so like when you
or
look at
Chris
the
Christie.
right, so when you look at the 2020 election results to compare, they're not Republicans who are flipping; they're just Democrats who happen to participate. Like they're not really part of the math.
It's
And that's
true.
something I
It's
think a
true.
lot of people don't necessarily do is they don't account for these crossover, and it makes the primary results often misleading. But I do think I don't know why it's taking so long to get the results in on New York Times, on NBC. However, we are getting some decent results in. We're at 40% of the way there. We got 54% Latimer and Bowman at 45%. Again, it's been called unofficially at this point that it will be Latimer getting the nomination. So that is one member of the squad who will not be returning. In Utah, we should take a look at. Is Utah closed yet, Mark? No.
The what?
No. The what's it called? Utah still polls are
Oh,
still open.
yeah.
Yeah.
Polls are closing at 10.
So Utah's an interesting case though because Spencer Cox because Romney's retiring, and the question is will will it be another Mitt Romney? Will we get a centrist or will it be Mike Lee? Will we get a second Mike Lee? And John Curtis, who is I guess a centrist. I don't know who Trump endorsed in Utah. I have to look that up in a second, but. Alright, we're gonna close out at Bobert because there's nothing else that interesting. Trump
Oh, I'm going to keep it open to see if she
Senate
gets kept under 50%.
endorsement. Nah, she definitely will, I think. Okay, it's Trent Staggs is who Trump endorsed. So, and I'm assuming Romney endorsed Curtis. So the question here will be, does Trump's endorsement carry in Utah? Because remember, Utah is a race that a state Trump struggled in 2016. In 2016, it voted only 45% voted for Trump. McMullen won 21%. Clinton only won 27%. Now in 2020, Trump won 58%. Biden won 37%. Generally, that's a little. It's still not good. I mean, it's still like somewhere between 10 and 8% worse than he should really be doing. Maybe a little more. But in the Senate, it could have crashed. That was weird. Hello?
Hello?
My internet crashed. I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry
nice.
about that, everyone. My Wi-Fi crashed.
It would have mattered in 2020, but like it's 4 years too late. That's the thing.
Ooh, my mic turned off. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why it did that. I think when my Wi-Fi crashed. If you didn't notice, we are back. Yeah, everyone just left because of that. We are back. Don't worry, we're back. Um, I don't know if anyone heard me, but the Hunter Biden thing, it's not going to be that impactful. Um, to be quite honest with you, I don't think anyone really cares per se. Um, no one cares about Trump. No one really cares about Hunter, and that's just the way it is.
Well, big no.
My internet.
No, don't tell me
No, we're okay. We're back. My computer's just dying. Okay, that
we
was weird.
lost
No,
debate, the
we're
first
good. We're
debate.
good.
Oh, I was gonna go about what Trump needed to do. Oh, we're good. I thought it
Oh, welcome. Oh,
was Jover.
my computer just cycled through so much weird stuff. Sorry about
Oh,
that. I'm using a very old computer. Primal B says he's back. While it was down, he was checking other people. And Channel AI says looks like Dumbo lost, and that's he has in fact lost. So in case no one heard, we will be live streaming on we'll be live streaming and carrying the debate live. It's gonna be simulcast in so many places. We're gonna carry it as well. We'll have live commentation, reaction to the debate, and after it's over, live commentary on on discussing the results. So you can we're one stop we're a one stop shop is it one stop shop for both debate coverage, debate playing the debate, and hearing about the debate afterwards and asking questions about the debate. So be sure to be there. It'll be a great night. A lot of commentary and kind of historic. We haven't had a debate this early in a very long time. I don't think this might be one of the earliest debates historically. I don't know for sure though.
I don't know. I felt like they were always in the fall.
Normally they are.
Yeah.
So I think this might be one of the earliest. Oh, New York NBC has announced that George Latimer is projected the winner.
So here's a question I have for you,
Okay.
Josh. What do you think Trump needs to do to win this debate, and what do you think Biden needs to do to win this first debate? Like, what are some of the strategies that they need to implement? Because this isn't their first debate against each other either. Like, they've had
Yeah.
no, it was two separate debates in 2020 because Trump got COVID and canceled the second one.
Right.
So
So that's an
they've
interesting
debated
question.
each other before.
So
What do you think? Yeah, yeah. So what do you think Trump needs to do to make himself look better? What do you think Biden needs to do to make himself look better?
it was either right before or right after. But whenever Chris Christie released the book Republican Rescue, and I know that's like why you're reading a Chris Christie book, but I read a Chris Christie book. Sue me. They're good for videos. And he talked about Trump during the debates, like what was Trump up to, what was Trump's strategy, and he said Trump's strategy was that he was so sure he was gonna go in and be this tough guy against Joe Biden, because that was his thing, and we talked about it in the Trump video. Trump's strategy is deflect, deflect, deflect. You don't have a plan against ISIS? Well, you know what? I don't need a plan against ISIS because my plan against ISIS is secret. I'm not going to tell ISIS how to beat it. Look at you. Why are you telling ISIS how you're going to beat them? Now ISIS knows how to win. And meanwhile, in addition to that, even if we ignore the fact that ISIS now knows how they're going to beat you, they would have beaten you anyway. That plan's terrible. So, that's just what it is. And Trump didn't do that in 2020. It was 2020. He was president. What are you going to do? Say Biden 4 years ago wasn't a good president? Everyone's life sucks still? Well, you've been president 4 years. What have you done? And that's what he did, though. He said the Obama-Biden administration, he really had this grudge against Obama, and you could see it in the actual, in how he debated. And it definitely came back to hurt him because he went into the debate and Biden's like, all these people are dead. And I'm not saying it's Trump's fault, but all these people are dead and you're more worried about something that happened 4 years ago. People can't afford to live in their homes now. You're talking about what it was like 4 years ago. And Biden flipped the script. So Trump is in a better position because he's no longer the incumbent. He can say life was better under me than it is under you now. Not life under. Americans always hate whatever the current situation is. If the economy's good, well, it'd be better under this guy. It's not that good, and that is the strategy Trump's hoping. It doesn't matter how good Biden things are under Biden. It just matters that Trump can promise better. But as president, Trump couldn't promise better because he's president. Why isn't it better already? So Trump needs to understand how Biden debates. But they called it on New York Times. George Latimer wins. Trump needs to understand how to debate Biden, and Biden is very good at debating. If you go back and watch his 2012 debate against Paul Ryan, he's very good. And against Trump, he let Trump say something stupid, and he just stood there and didn't look like an idiot in comparison. And that's all he had to do. So Trump needs to let Biden screw up. He needs to give Biden a chance to screw up because he kept interrupting Biden, and as a result, Biden didn't get a chance to say something stupid like stand back and stand by to a white supremacist group. If Trump can stay quiet, answer the questions, let Biden look like an idiot and sound like he has dementia or something, then he's done. Biden can't win. Biden is not in great shape debate wise. But the only way Trump loses is if Trump sabotages himself. No matter who wins, we can expect a fresh shipment of meme formats. That is very true.
I like to add on to the Trump sabotaging himself
Sorry, Mark, hold
thing
on.
because like
Okay, you're good.
oh,
You were being picked up. I couldn't hear you. My headphones came loose. What's up?
okay, cool. But as I was saying, I like to add on to the Trump being the Trump sabotaging himself thing. So Trump was debating, it felt like for the first 2020 debate, it felt like he was debating the moderator more
Mm-hmm.
than Biden himself. So he can't pin himself in that 2v1 race. You know,
Right.
you can't pin yourself debating two people at once. You're going to sound like a madman. You
Yes.
need to just focus on Biden. It doesn't matter what the moderator does. I mean, you can briefly talk about the corrupt media, but like, don't emphasize on it, right? Don't harp on it. Don't harp on the moderator.
I'll be right
Just
back. I'm just gonna
go
get a
after
cup of water.
when you can.
Entertain the stream.
Oh, I was never assigned to entertain the stream. I was never assigned to entertain the stream. Bruh. So in Colorado, Boebert is just eclipsed 40,000 votes after switching districts. 68% of the votes are in, but she has only 43.1% of the vote. She will be kept under 50% of the vote.
I'm back.
Okay. I just recapped on Boebert.
The part of my I have a vent in my room where the air blows out, and where I put my water bottle, like on my desk, in my room, blows right onto it. So my water's always like ice cold at night. It's awesome.
What do
Biden
you
only.
think what do you think Biden's strategy is for this debate?
I think it's didn't Boebert move districts? Yes, she did. Um, Biden only has two speaking speeds: yell or whisper. My advice for Trump is act presidential. For Biden, don't yell into an empty room. Both are great advice by Channel
Mm,
AI.
I think there's the problem with Biden right now is that too many people think he is completely incompetent. You look at how he's unable to stand for trial because he has that poor of a memory. And that's how you look at the all those classified documents in his home in Delaware. He can't be put on trial for that because his memory is too poor. And
Mm-hmm.
that not only looks bad nationally, that looks bad on an international standpoint.
I
You look at
don't
how people from
disagree,
across
but
the world are seeing Biden.
Trump won't win doing that. Because what Biden's going to say is, you're right. I did have documents in my home. But as soon as I found out, because look, everyone makes mistakes, and I'm sure maybe you did make a mistake. But the difference is when I found out I had him, when your former vice president Mike Pence found out he had him, you know what we did? We gave him back. When you found out you had him, you tried to argue you should keep him. The FBI had to raid and take him back to prevent them from going missing. So why is it that you couldn't give back your documents, but everyone else could give back theirs? That's so. That's He's not going to win if Trump tries to say what
I'm
he
not
did.
saying that. That's not what I'm
No,
saying.
I know.
I'm
I
saying
know what you're saying.
I'm saying that too many people think that Biden is incompetent because he can't be put on trial, because of all these things, because of all the things that he said and did. Look at all the Biden memes that are happening. Look at how he fell off his bicycle. Look at how he thought Mexico was on the border with Israel. Look at on a bunch of other things. A bunch of other things that Biden has said and done. Look at how especially how he fell up the stairs or down the stairs. when
George
he was going
Jerry Ford
when he
moment.
was going when he
He
was
had a
going up his airplane.
he had a
But
Gerald Ford moment.
yeah, but like it's just like that. A lot of people aren't confident in Biden because he's a nice old man, but he's a nice old man with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of people, I'm not saying whether that's true or not. I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just saying that that's what a lot of people see Biden as. At least Donald Trump can be put on trial. So I'm saying for Biden, it's not that you need to go after that point. I'm not saying that Trump needs to go after that point. I'm saying that Biden needs to distance himself from all the accusations of him being incompetent.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear. You can mention as a joke. I am debating 2.5 peaks
Yeah.
here. Zombie counts as half. I don't know what that means. But yeah. I mean, I think the problem with that is if you call him incompetent, if you call him this. So let's say Trump says that, like say in the beginning. Um, then Biden says something coherent, right, or like intelligent. Then you can be like, not bad for an old demented man. Like, you're not gonna win attacking Biden for being old, and you're not gonna win for attacking Biden for being quote unquote incompetent mentally, because the reality is Trump is the same age now as Biden was in 2020, and Trump attacked him for his age then. I think you're much better off attacking Biden for policy, like what's going on with Israel, what's going on with the economy, what's going on, and so on. You're not going to win if you attack Biden personally. Because personally, most people, and this is just the reality of the situation, probably think Biden is a better person than Trump is, like to have a beer with or to talk to. I think I forget where I've seen it, but I've seen a lot of people say that they think Biden's probably like a good guy just as a general person. There's um there's a video of Obama and Biden walking through a crowd of people. And Obama, he shakes a few hands, he makes it through. Biden's still talking to the first guy he came up to. Biden is very good at communicating with individual people. And so attacking Biden as a person is not going to be as effective as attacking Biden as a politician. And Trump made that mistake. He's not Hillary Clinton. People don't hate Joe Biden for being Joe Biden. It was easy to attack Hillary Clinton as Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton sucks. Everyone hates Hillary Clinton. But not everyone hates Joe Biden as a guy, just as a general guy, like not as a politician, but just as a guy. You got to attack him as a politician. I think all Biden has to do is impress the public to speak and act more coherently than they expect him to. Exactly. That's why you can't attack Biden for his age, because Biden will say at least one thing decent, and you're screwed. All of the Sleepy Joe Biden talk may backfire if he sounds better than expected because it sets the bar so low in the popular conscious. And I agree with that as well. You want to attack him as a policymaker, as a president, as a leader, not as an 82-year-old man. It's like the State of the Union address. Precisely. Great analysis by Primal B. And by Mark. I think Mark has some good points about his age. It's just
He is 81 years old right now.
he is? I thought he was
His
82.
birthday is on November 20th.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. But Trump's no spring chicken either, as you
He's
said.
not.
He's 78 right now.
And
Trump is 78.
he's not he's not like old, but Biden, we were calling, me and you were calling Biden old in 2020, and look where we are now.
Exactly.
And that's why the
And
age
now
isn't
look
a
at the way
good
it is.
argument. Because what makes Trump so much younger in 2024 than Biden was when he was too old in 2020? Biden, Channel AI says Biden won't do well without a teleprompter. I actually would like you. I'd like to say if people are wondering what Biden's like, go watch the 2012 vice presidential debate. And he is, and I know that was almost 10, 12 years ago, but he's good at debating. Like he is genuinely pretty good at debating when he wants to be. And what Biden's spending a week prepping. I mean, if this debate is anything, it's gonna be Joe Biden at his best. He's going in there and he's gonna try to do everything he can to win. So you don't, if anything, you want to overestimate Biden, not underestimate him. Because I'm expecting this to be the peak, like this, in theory, this should be Biden's best performance ever with what he's doing to prepare and what he's planning on. Now, I could be wrong. And Trump, hopefully, unlike in 2024, Trump is hopefully preparing, and we'll see two people who genuinely are prepared and ready to go. The first presidential debate for any incumbent is usually their worst. Obama had a very bad 2012, Trump had a very bad 2020, and so on. But So I think Biden, as someone who is decent at communicating with individuals, will try not to speak to Trump, but try to speak to the audience. And that's something Trump speaks to the crowd, but he doesn't speak to the viewer. If that makes sense. Like Trump will talk to the overall crowd of a rally, but he doesn't look into the camera and say, "Look, you've been in pain, I've been in pain." Like, he doesn't do stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's just not his communication style. But Biden, as a person, is generally somewhat empathetic in a way that Trump isn't to a crowd. And you don't want to underestimate him. I think Biden's debate strategy is generally pretty good, especially against someone like Trump. And he's good at getting Trump riled up. Trump hates. I don't know why. Trump has like this personal hatred of Joe Biden, even going back to 2016 or so, and he's just never let it go. It has to do with Obama, I think, because Trump hates Obama. So we had a special. Oh, never mind. It's called. I was gonna say we had a special election in the Colorado 4, but they called it for the Republicans. I don't think this was a flip. Um, it was a runoff for a special Trump-backed pastor loses. All right. Who was the pastor? Oh, South Carolina runoff. That's why. I was gonna say that's confusing. Who do you think Trump's VP will be? Let's change subjects.
Ooh, there's a number of possibilities. I don't think it's going to be Pence. I think I can say that pretty confidently. But I could see Glenn Youngkin if he wants to really go after Virginia. He could be that, suburban salesman type guy, Glenn Youngkin. But I mean, maybe Vivek. I think that'd be a great fit for
It would
Trump,
be a
but like
mistake.
in some ways, but in other ways it just wouldn't. I don't think it would be Nikki Haley. There's no clear candidate that really sticks out to me, but I know Vivek sticks out kinda, the Youngkin kinda, maybe.
Yeah. Here, is this better for our mics? I just raised them.
Is this better for mics? I don't know.
Do y'all
I can't
follow
tell.
international politics or geopolitics much on your own time? I do. I don't know if Mark does, but I do. Any questions regarding that? I'm not like an expert by any means, but if you have anything you want to know, I could at least try to answer it. And anyway, the vice president is meant to be someone who fills in what you're missing. For Trump, it was when Trump was running, Mike Pence was the calm, collected Christian in the room. So even if Trump's not a perfect Christian who's kind of crazy, Pence won't let him do anything too crazy. I mean, it's Mike Pence. Joe Biden was the white, kind of southernish kind of guy. I mean, Delaware is not that southern, but relatively southern to Obama, who was this new, young, progressive, you know, and in comparison, you had the more conservative Joe Biden. He's a little older. He brings a little more like pragmatism. So don't worry too much. Obama's not going to do. He won't let Obama do too much crazy new stuff, and so on. Dick Cheney was the establishment and the kind of like backroom deals to George Bush's more naivete and good faith, good heartedness, I guess you could call it, at least on the outside. And Kamala Harris was a woman minority who could speak out to people who weren't really that excited in 2020, especially to vote for another old white guy. Primal B says, no, I'm just curious because you were talking about Lebanon a lot earlier, and I haven't heard many others talking about it. Vivek says, Vivek would have been the pick. He walks, carries over by 20. Vivek doesn't bring any new voters to the table, so it's a waste of a VP. You don't want a VP and the main candidate to be the same guy. It brings you nothing to the table. You need like let's say your main base is the Trump base, right? Now you want someone who the Trump base you want someone who can't who the Trump base wouldn't otherwise I'm sorry. You want someone who wouldn't otherwise be part of the Trump base in the VP. Because then that guy can go out and say, look, everyone, I know you don't like Donald Trump, but I'm here. Vote for me instead. You're voting for me too, and I know you guys like me. Think Sarah Palin to John McCain. John McCain was an establishment neocon in the age of the 2008, not a very good time to be a Republican. And Sarah Palin comes along with this youthful populism, and for a while at least, the McCain did improve in the polls.
Then
Um,
what about a woman for the VP pick? I know like
uh,
Kristi Noem.
yeah,
I'm looking at
Christy Noem's
Kristi
done
Noem,
now. She said she killed her
Katie
dog.
Britt. Oh, that's who Kristi Noem is. I'm
Yeah.
I'm just looking at all these candidates.
Um,
But what about like Katie Britt, the
she's pretty
woman
good.
from Alabama?
Yes, Senator Alabama.
Yeah.
She's only just entered federal politics.
And
Vivek
then
brings
there's
in young
also
Trump voters big time. These others are nada. But don't forget, these young Trump voters are still Trump voters. You're not bringing young voters big time. These young voters, though, are still Trump voters overall. You want someone who brings in new voters. Like, if you're only appealing to young men, you want someone who brings in young women, for example. And Vivek,
exactly.
it doesn't bring anything new to the table, other than maybe a little bit of youthful energy, but those people are either going to vote for Trump. I mean, they're going to vote for Trump, let's be honest. If you're a young right wing guy, you're voting for Donald Trump. Um, Someone said, talking about Lebanon a lot earlier, I haven't heard many others talking about, yeah, well, that's where the war's going to shift to. Not really the kind of stream to talk about it, but basically, Lebanon is the kind of the main, is going to be Israel's main focus in the next few months now that Gaza's wrapping up. She shot her dog. That dog won't hunt. No, the issue with the dog, I believe, was that it was actually hunting all the. It was killing all their farm animals, so she shot it because it wasn't a good hunter and it was murdering all their animals. It was like killing their chickens. Now, I'm not endorsing that. I think that was wrong and she shouldn't have done that. But just to be clear on what exactly she was doing, why she did it. Any other questions in the chat? Vivek adds, others don't whatsoever. Well, yeah, let me ask you this. What is Vivek bringing to the ticket, like, in terms of voters, that Trump doesn't have? Like, what kind of voters wouldn't vote for Donald Trump, but now that Vivek's here, they're going to vote? And while he answers that, Mark, who do you want to be the VP candidate?
I'm looking at honestly, I want it to be a woman because you see especially the way women are they're drifting away from the Republican
Mm-hmm.
base, and I think we need to reel in some of those women back.
Yeah.
I like personally, if I was the Republican, if I was Trump, I'm seeing all the demographics from 2016 to 2020 into 2022, and I'm seeing that the women vote has shifted more and more and more to the left. I feel like we need a woman vice president in there just to say like, hey, women can be Republicans too. Because
Right.
like the thing with Democrats is like the thing with Joe Biden did, he brought in a black woman, and that really incentivized. I mean, I'm not sure how much it incentivized, but I'm sure to an extent it incentivized
Yeah.
black voters and women voters. So I feel like especially with women voters, the fact that they're going away from the Republican Party, I think we can reel at least some of them back in
See,
by getting a woman VP nominee.
I think if Trump was smart, he would go for a Jewish VP because
Hmm.
we're at a crossroads right now politically where a lot of Jews would be willing to not vote for Biden, even if they're not big fans of Trump. If you could just convince them to not vote for Biden, it could. Let me look at New York. Let's look at the results in New York. This is the most Jewish district in the country, I believe. And look at what happened. An incumbent, two-term incumbent, got thrown out. And you could say, well, that's because of APAC, but regardless, Jewish Republicans are out there. I mean, and I think convincing them to leave Biden would be significant. Whether it be with donors. I mean, Sheldon Adelson, when he was alive at least, was very wealthy. He gave hundreds of millions of dollars now. His wife, she's now, I guess, his widow or whatever the term is. She just gave Trump $100 million. There's a lot of voters out there who are if you could just moderate on some of this weirdness that Trump dips into when it comes to the far right, and kind of leave it alone, you could probably convince them to get on board at least for a little while. Primal V says the Gerudo Valley theme was a really nice touch in the Trump video. What is y'all's favorite Zelda, assuming you will play? I feel really bad saying this now. I've never played a Zelda game. I got that song from another history YouTuber because I really liked that song and I thought it sounded really cool to use. It came from, I think it was either Overly Sarcastic Productions or the YouTuber Sam Arno. I don't remember if I've seen it anywhere else, but those two YouTubers I believe used it, and that's why I decided to use it because I like those YouTubers and I like their presentation style. Who, if you couldn't tell, heavily inspired. If you haven't seen it, Primal B, there's a new video out from Monday. Oh, I guess you did. I think you left a comment on it. If people watching haven't seen it yet, there is a new video out. It came out yesterday. It's called "The Battle Against Obamacare." It's the story of how Republicans, and especially Ted Cruz, fought Obamacare. Not as exciting as the Trump one, but it's a fun story. You know, green eggs. It's the story. It has the green eggs and ham Senate reading in it. So definitely go check that out when you have a chance. Any new questions in the chat? We Vivek is young voters, connects with. He's not dumb. Yeah, but that's not really. You need someone You need ideological diversity. Let's put it that way. There's no ideological diversity in having Vivek and Trump on the same ticket. The same type of people are going to vote for both of them. Apparently, Jamal Bowman tweeted, "Stop, drop, shut him down, open up shop," whatever that means. Well, he got shut down, and he's done in Congress, so. Trying to see if there's any other exciting races out there tonight. Very excited about the debates. I love presidential debates. They're very exciting stuff. I think people dismissing more pro-Israel results are just because of AIPAC is very disingenuous and just tries to dismiss that dissatisfaction to double down. I saw the Obamacare video. I thought it was very good. I was in elementary school when that was happening, and I heard about it all the time from my parents and grandparents. Well, I was as well, actually. I was in kindergarten or first grade when Obamacare passed, and I remember it. I remember green eggs and ham. I remember all of it. Every morning with breakfast, I watched the news, so I always heard something, and we watched the news at night too. Watched a lot of news in my house. You know, I annoyed at the Sunday school or religious school or whatever you call it on like the week, the school, whatever you go to on the weekends. I don't know what they call it. I guess like what Christians would call it Sunday school. I think it was on Sunday too for me, and I'm Jewish, so I don't know what it would be. But anyway, I said something about Obamacare. I was in like third grade, and this person got so angry at me. It was very funny. But yeah, so I mean, it's not just AIPAC, BOTA race. This is a very Jewish district, and I think a lot of people don't realize is, generally speaking, Israel is somewhat popular nationally. I mean, going all like Columbia student protests, that's not the average Democrat or even the average American. Ooh, there's a big race going on between Anthony Frasone and Mondaire Jones. All right, let me get the number that is so I can pull it up. No, it's a Democrat race. I love my computer freezing up. New York. We're done with this. Wipe out. Where is that race? Shoot. Anthony Frasone. That name sounds very familiar. Anthony Frasone. 17th district. Okay. Let's pull up those results. I heard they're like 50-50 right now. No, let's just use NBC. I don't feel like dealing with this. NY House results. New York 22, 16, 10, 1. Where's 17? There's not that few running. Votes in. Sort by district. Votes in. I'm confused. Winner. No. There's all the other ones. Okay, New York. That's annoying. New York is apparently not very good. Alright, not New York. What's it called? Skip to Democrats. Where's all the other races? Fine, District 1. And then just do it this way, I guess. That's annoying. I don't know why it's not showing number 17. Am I being lied to? Frasson v. Jones. Is that not? Frasson v. Jones. It was like Mondare Jones and the WFP against a GOP spoiler. Here we go. NY Times. Show New York. So there it is. I found it. New York 17. Wow, Mark, it's 50.8 to 49.2.
What is
The race in New York 17?
the 17th?
Yeah, Democrats are. Apparently there's an alleged Republican spoiler there. Except naturally they don't say who's who. It's. No, this is the. Oh, this is in the Working Families Party. I understand now. So admittedly, I'm not super familiar with this race. Any descriptions? No. Trying to get an idea of what's going on here. I have not followed this race in the slightest. Hey, Rockland, don't sleep on Tuesday's race. Okay, let's see. Oh, I see. So Jones, Mondare Jones, who's currently behind, there's only 300 people voted so far. He lost support against by the Working Families. So are you familiar with how the New York party system works? Because it's very stupid. So there's like the party, right? Like the Democrat and Republican, but then they have a sub-party, which is like the Conservative Party, Working Families Party. I don't know why they do that. I think it's very dumb, but it's just how it is. But yeah, let's see anything in the chat. Oh, we got a lot in the chat. Yeah, despite student protests, encampment at my school got shut down. Tried to take over building. Most people are neutral or pro-Israel. I agree with you. Wait, dude, were you at Columbia? It's probably not be at Columbia. Yeah, it's an alliance. So I guess the alliance is trying to expel him. Okay, I'm not totally sure. I've never really understood how this weird system works in what's it called? New York, where like there's like alliances. It's very weird.
There's party alliances?
Yeah, so like there's the Conservative and Working Families Party who will sub-endorse Republicans or Democrats, and I don't know why like they do that. I guess instead of putting a second person on the ballot, they like instead of running a third party, they just cross over and have two different very rarely they'll put up their own people. So I guess they're trying, instead of outright endorsing the Democrat, they're having a primary. You have to win both primaries to get both endorsements, but I guess the Democrat who's won uncontested might lose the endorsement of the Working Families primary. That's my understanding. Very dumb. I don't like the whole like coalition system when it comes to primaries. I think it's unnecessary. I mean, it's fine. It's just a mess. Anyone else in the chat? No. Hmm. Very good night for I would say the more pro-Israel wing of the party. This was I guess a good showing that overall, we're not going to see just straight up like like the Democratic Party, like we can see, I guess, whiplash. We're seeing whiplash in a way, which means that I guess there'll be a little bit less pressure on Biden now. Utah's polls have closed. Just seeing if there's any other interesting ideas. Canada calls on citizens in like Kuwait and Macedonia to leave Lebanon, and to depart using commercial flights immediately. Unprecedented security situation. There very well may be a war in Lebanon. It's very likely at this point. Let's see. Anything in the chat? No. If you haven't already, please check out the other videos on the channel. We have a video about the history of the presidency of Donald Trump and a history of the battle for Obamacare and against Obamacare, kind of both. I went back and forth on the name. And now back to the commentary. I'd break over. So let's move over to the Utah race. So this is another one worth watching because, again, it's kind of a proxy battle for Donald Trump's influence. If I can find it, all states, Utah. Mark, you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Oh, guess what? Donald Trump won the state of Utah on March 6th. Where is the Senate race? Thank you, NBC. Very cool.
Yeah, you gotta search it by. You gotta search like the page for it on Firefox or Google, and then it's a page. Turn on that bypasser. Well, that's a womp womp moment, isn't it?
Let's try NBC's feed. Or not. Let's try the AP's feed. AP Utah result. Okay. Washington Post. Anything good out of the Washington Post? Anyone in the chat? No, my mic's up. Can you not hear me? The OBS says it's on. You mentioned Sam Arno earlier. Do you know channels like JJ McCulloch and Mr. Beast? So I actually have I actually once got to work on something with Mr. Beat. Not Mr. Beast, Mr. Beat. I worked on something with Mr. Beat once before. We did a redistricting roundup live stream. We went through all the states and their redistricting and judged them for their gerrymandering. LTE was also there. If you've heard of him, Let's Talk Elections. It was very fun. It was almost 2 years. It was 2 years ago actually, about today. You're back now. Okay. JJ McCulloch, I have heard of him. Unlike Sam Arno and JJ, and unlike Mr. B, I have not met either Sam Arno and I have not met Sam Arno or JJ McCulloch. However, I have watched their videos. You were playing Mario Party with me. Okay, cool. But yes, so they're all relatively inspirations on the style. I would say if it's pretty obvious who specifically I take from, especially in certain aspects of the videos. But if you can tell, you can tell. At least for now, as I develop a style of my own. We have 4 other viewers. Anyone have any other questions? I know Primal B's been asking a lot, and he's playing Mario Party right now. But anyone else out there want to know anything going into where we are? Maybe you were just quiet. Yeah, I think that's what it was. I was changing over to opening other races. What is going on in the state of Utah? I would love to look at it, but Discord is frozen. Not Discord. Firefox is frozen. There we go. Ooh, we got results in. So Curtis, who is currently leading at 53.9%. Trump endorsed Staggs, who's currently fallen behind. However, this is also areas like Salt Lake City, and if I remember correct, where's my Utah map? So generally speaking, it would appear, and Mark, I don't know if you're looking at it, but it looks like some more of the liberal areas have come in first, or at least relatively speaking. You have counties like Salt Lake, Utah, Summit, even like, again, this is relatively, but Toole, Utah, compared to other parts of the state. We have Weber, which is, Weber's, no, that's not Weber. We have Weber, which is 60%.
I think it's just Salt Lake County that just came in.
Yeah, the overall, like that area at least, and it's pretty red, but then you look at other parts, which are 80% Trump, 88% Trump, 78%, and suddenly these 55%, 60, 70% aren't as impressive. So it's not to say that, Curtis isn't going to win. It's just to say that these are Curtis's, I guess, strongholds compared to the more Trumpy areas. In a very red state to begin with, the bluest parts have come in so far. And bluest relative to at least the state. Yeah, no. These are definitely the bluest. Yeah, I mean, in 2016, Weber only voted 47% Trump, and while they shifted to 59, if we go to the south parts, like southern Utah goes like 80% Trump versus like 59. So this isn't super meaningful on its own. But we do have Box Elder County on the New York Times feed, which is a relatively strong area for Trump, and it's also voting for Curtis. Box Elder voted 80% for Donald Trump, and here it's voting for Curtis, who is the more centrist candidate. Trent Staggs was endorsed by Donald Trump, and he's not even close. It's not even close there, and this should be an area that, relatively speaking, should be voting to the right, and it really isn't what we want to be seeing for Trent Staggs. But again, southern Utah may come in and things may begin to change. We have to give it a minute. But no county so far. We have one county in the south. Washington County has come in, but only by Wow, 70 votes for Trent ahead. Wow, that is not what you want to be seeing if you are Trent Staggs. I mean, if you look at this map right here of the Trump parts versus the Biden parts, again, relatively, it's not great. And Trent Staggs has claimed his first spot of purple on the Washington Times map, or New York Times map. Same numbers as the one we just looked at before, 70 votes. Okay, so Utah's counting pretty quickly, it would seem. San Juan County will be interesting because that's more of a swing district. It hasn't come in yet, but in theory, this should be a pretty strong area for Curtis. And it was 51-40 something for Biden. 40.
More out of Summit County.
Where?
Summit County. It's the other liberal county in North Utah.
Yes. 54-29, and it voted for Biden 58%. So I do think the more centrist, generally speaking, Utah, although it's very partisan, it's ideologically more, it's kind of its own identity overall. And I do think that'll play into how it votes tonight. And which is why I'm very curious how these more like Trumpy areas, kind of like in the South, I'd like to see if they swing hard for Staggs or if Curtis wins outright, which would show that the power of the Trump endorsement is very weak in Utah, which we would expect. Utah underperforms when Donald Trump is on the ballot. Even Mike Lee, who won in the 60s back in 2016, I think. No. When did Mike Lee? No, Mike Lee ran in 22. Mike Lee ran just in 22, and he did significantly worse than he had done back in 2016, I believe. Right? 22, Mike Lee got 53%, and he got 68% in 2016, and Romney got 62%. So Utah has been trending, I don't want to say it's been trending left, but it's been trending away from the Republicans, ideologically at least. I do think it's just a different kind of world. No more votes out of Washington. I would like to see more come out of there. We got Garfield County in, which I believe is a pretty strong. Oops. That's Nevada. That's the wrong button. Utah. Was it Trent County? I didn't even look. Garfield. Garfield County voted 80% Trump, and here it is, at least with 95% of the voting for Curtis. So I think it's pretty safe to say Curtis will likely win. But it does show, it goes to show that Trump's endorsement is not all powerful. In Utah, he can't even break 30%. And generally speaking, he should be able to. It just goes to show that Utah is very much its own thing, I guess, when it comes to where it fits within the Republican Party and where it fits in general. Do you think there's any big implications here, Mark?
I don't know. John Curtis seems like a pretty popular guy in Utah. Was he the guy endorsed by Romney?
Who? Curtis?
John Curtis.
Yeah, so I don't know if he was endorsed by Romney, but he was not endorsed by Donald Trump, and he's like a centrist. So he'd be very moderate. He'd kind of be like a Joe Manchin, I think, for the Republicans, which Mitt Romney was, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Utah is very moderate.
Utah is an enigma of a state.
It really is. It's Mormon. I mean,
It's got some like weird political policies. Like I mean, it's a deep Republican state, but I mean, it's got a lot of democratic values to it.
It does.
There's a lot of democratic values in Utah,
Okay,
so
man.
I'm honestly not surprised at all by John Curtis. And also, we know from a lot of primary elections that
Oh, they
Trump's
called it.
endorsement is,
It's been
though they
called.
did call it just now,
John
but
Curtis wins in defeating Trump-endorsed Trent Staggs. That's the way the news goes. So
yep.
here's an interesting question from Primal B. How do you think polarization can be reduced in America?
Hmm. I think social media is playing a big part in polarization.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually wrote a paper on this. I think and based on the Pollock and GSS data sets that were recorded in 2016, social media consumption or higher social media consumption can typically drag you or distort your views to the right, politically to the right. So I think social media has a big part to do with it. You look at all these echo chambers that are happening, all these social media sites. I think you also have just people aren't willing to talk to each other anymore. I I know politics was always kind of taboo, but like it's especially taboo now. Like
It's
you can't
taboo,
talk
but
about
it's also like ever present. Having the wrong
yeah,
view is taboo, but talking about politics is like normal. It's weird. Like it used to be, no one talked about politics because no one wanted to hear what you thought, but also no one wanted to know what you thought. Now, it's like the one Family Guy meme where he holds up the card with with the different shades on it, and it's like terrorist or, same thing here.
well,
Are you okay or not okay? Are you red or blue? And I think it's damaging. I would love a world where we have more Joe Manchins and more, you know, more like Blue Dogs and more and more Mitt Romneys. Not because I want a more like centrist or left wing or whatever, but because I think I would rather have more conservative Democrats and liberal Republicans because I think it's better for the country to have it that way, to reduce ideological partisanship, to have more crossover. You can still have your Mike Lees and Ted Cruz's. I have no problem with them. I just made a video about them. All the power to them. But I don't want a Republican Party that's only Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz can't win 50 plus seats in the Senate, nor can, as we've seen tonight, Bernie Sanders or Jamal Bowman. They just can't win a majority in America. And as the parties become more polarized, they in reality represent less Americans, and we're seeing this shift to localization and not and like I forget the term I use, neutrality, where people are just voting based on the specifics of the race. They're not voting on parties anymore, but they're still voting based on party. It's this weird intertwined where overall Republicans can have a bad night but still win in Florida by a massive margin because Florida Republicans are one thing, but but then they don't win in Wisconsin, but then they underperform in Wisconsin or Michigan, whatever. It's it's very polarized but also localized. It's no longer nationalized like say 2014 or 2018 were, where Democrats just won across the board or Republicans just won across the board. I mean, 2014, you could throw anyone at the wall and they'd probably win. It was such a big red wave, but we're not seeing that anymore. You can't just throw people in. All right, I think that's really all there is left to say for tonight. What do you think, Mark?
yeah, I don't think there's really anything else to go over unless we want to go over,
Oh, we
I
got
don't know,
5 viewers,
South
so maybe
Carolina.
I don't know if we're allowed to. We just got a ton of viewers joining in. Welcome to the stream. I'm being held hostage. So let's see. Anyone watching want to have any questions or comments that you'd like us to discuss or me to discuss? If Mark wants to go, I thought we might end it, but everyone just joined in. So big night tonight politically. Bowman lost his race in Utah. A Trump-endorsed candidate lost to a more centrist. This may have implications for partisanship, may have implications for the Israel-Palestinian conflict and how it plays into the party. And especially as things begin to heat up in Lebanon, we may see Biden begin to shift his policy now as he may feel a little more confident in supporting Israel. We'll see how he reacts when Netanyahu comes to visit. But it's been a very big night politically, I think. A lot of people are going to underplay it, and I think a lot important stuff we saw play out. And yeah. So if anyone in the chat watching wants to ask a question, we're answering questions because election night's kind of done. Nothing too exciting. We could check on. We're kind of podcasting it now. What do you think the party's strongest and weakest issues are this cycle? Strongest for the Republicans would be foreign policy. Biden's foreign policy's been a disaster. It's been a mess and kind of bipolar, schizophrenic. Meanwhile, I think for Republicans, social issues, abortion, gay marriage, like these are not strong issues for the Republicans as it might have been a few years ago. Like they're not going to win on these issues because, as we saw in 22, while people aren't necessarily sitting here saying they want to legalize abortion to the last day, they also don't want to criminalize abortion to the first day, and it weakens the Republicans on these issues as people can say, well, the Republicans want to pass a national abortion ban. Trump doesn't want to do that, but people are saying he does, and it puts and Trump can't just outright say I don't want to. He says I want to leave it to the states, but he can't just say I want to protect abortion because he doesn't, and because even though it would be relatively popular overall, it's not the base. Democrats, it's definitely things like economy and foreign policy, especially. I'd say maybe you could do crime. The border is a big one. We've unfortunately seen these horrible stories about children being hurt. Just this morning, I think they arrested two illegal immigrants who had murdered and I believe assaulted a woman or a girl, and so on. I think these are very strong issues for Republicans to push back on. Biden's been pivoting and gotten backlash from Democrats for pivoting on this issue and becoming a little more conservative with his executive order. And it's just not a good look for Democrats as these stories continue to come out. So those are the issues, really, this election. The war, the economy, the border, and social and abortion and social issues. Okay. Of the 4 current viewers, does anyone want to ask a question? If you're watching and new to the channel, we have 2 YouTube videos out right now. One on the presidency of Donald Trump and the other on the battle against Obamacare, such as the filibusters, Ted Cruz, the government shutdown in 2013, and more. Great video, great story. It's very fun. We'll be having videos out in July about the Biden presidency up through 2022 and the year of the 5 speakers. 5 speaker nominees, at least. Not really speakers, but yeah. Definitely go check those out. I feel like I'm like a radio station where they're like, this is 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM, New York. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world. They gotta do it every 20 minutes because by law they have to go through like a station ID so people know what they're listening to.
Do they gotta go through it every 22 minutes?
I think it's like they have to do it a few times an hour. Yeah. So every I listen to them in the car and I'll just hear I've memorized it and I'll just be like, this is 1010 Wins on that. They got to do it every few stations. It's like you're watching Disney Channel. If you ever watched Disney Channel as a kid, they'd be like, my name is whatever.
Right,
My name
yeah.
is the big ticket, and you're watching the big ticket. And I feel like I keep doing that, running through this little script. Ronald B says, looking forward to new videos. That was my next question. So those will be the 2 big videos for July. August, I haven't quite decided. It'll probably be everything that's happened after the midterms. So the Israel war, the Biden, how it's affected Biden, the border becoming a bigger issue, just talking about stuff like that. The 2022 midterm video, or up to the midterm video, will be talking about like the filibuster, Joe Manchin, the midterms, the Biden's policy. I promised Mark a million times that we would definitely talk about trains. Mark's very excited about the infrastructure train bill. That was the infrastructure part of the bill for the trains, right, Mark?
I love my trains. I love my trains.
I promised him I'd go ride on the train with him at some point. So we'll talk about stuff like that. All the fun stuff that no one remembers. The big debate about the filibuster, the Supreme Court. A lot happened. It will be happening in that video. It's exciting stuff. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then after that, we'll have another short, 9-minute video just talking about the craziness of the year 2023 and how we went through so many different speaker candidates and the implications of that. Speakership of Kevin McCarthy. And yeah, so probably sometime before the 1st, I'll just come out with a little update video, letting people know, answering questions from the last 2 videos, comments I received, stuff like that, just like an update, and then we'll move on to the next one. I Just looking. Oh, we got a new subscriber. Welcome to the channel. So, Utah, Trump is not a Utah candidate. Even the areas that are very Trumpy, Curtis is at least 50% of the vote. So that's interesting. Sorry, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts for a second. Wasn't planning on streaming to begin with, and I wasn't planning on having this many people streaming, coming onto the stream on and off. It started the dip, and I'm like, okay, I guess we'll end it, and then like 5 people joined, and I'm like, oh, can't end it now. So I guess someone asked about Lebanon earlier, so I guess to fill the time a little. So regarding Lebanon, and I think what a lot of people would be very surprised by is Biden will draw a line at Lebanon, and a lot of that is because one, again, as I mentioned earlier, Hezbollah is in southern Lebanon, but it's not like full of civilians, so you won't see. I mean, there's still people who live there, obviously, but it's much more of like a war zone than say Gaza would traditionally be viewed as, which has 2 million people living in it, and also because Hezbollah is genuinely a proxy military for Iran, which Hamas is as well, but nowhere near as big as Hezbollah is, who outright is a regional threat. So I'm not saying we're going to see U.S. troops in Lebanon, but any like lack of support Biden's been showing towards Israel will disappear if they have to attack Lebanon, especially if Lebanon attacks first. And the implications of that politically, I think, will be a lot of people will be very angry. They probably won't. The situation in Lebanon is not so much more. There won't be an October 7th of point 2 in comparison. Like, this has been building up for years. I mean, 2006, so on. So politically, it's going to be much harder for Biden and to justify it to his voters, which will be very awkward because I wouldn't be surprised if Israel, regardless of how big the attack is, Israel were to go in, even if it wouldn't have otherwise gone in previously in a similar attack. Like, I think the casus belli will not be nearly as massive as, say, Gaza. And politically, I think a lot of Democrats will be very angry at Biden, and I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with a Jimmy Carter situation where, Jimmy Carter just couldn't get a win with Iran, and that cost him, and we could see something like that happen. Trump's been pointing out that there was peace in the Middle East before Biden took over. There was peace in the Middle East. And he said a million times, this war would have never happened, just like Ukraine. It would have never happened. And I don't know if that's true, but I would say that there would be probably Trump's policy overall was very like, you don't know what he's gonna do. He's crazy. What if he nukes me tomorrow? I don't want to get nuked. This guy's insane. Better do what he says. And Biden isn't. Biden's much more traditional, geopolitical. He's a realist in a way that Trump isn't per se. Trump had a weird. Biden's a realist in that we do what's best for America, and it's best for America to have allies. Trump was, we do what's best for America. I'll nuke North Korea if I feel like it. If they look at me the wrong way, I'll nuke Afghanistan. I don't care. But try me. You want to try me? Be serious. And it's possible that we see that play out in the debates. Trump's foreign policy was always one of his strong suits, and I wouldn't be surprised if he hammers Biden on Afghanistan, Ukraine, Israel, and just goes after him for it. This could be genuine. This could be the thing that Trump really has the policy edge on. We had the Abraham Accords. Trump was saying we were very close to some big people joining in, and they didn't join in because Joe Biden got elected, and I thought maybe Joe Biden could get in there. He says stuff like that all the time when he talks, and I think Trump can go in and say, why hasn't Saudi Arabia signed a peace deal? Because they were going to sign a peace deal with me, and now they haven't signed a peace deal. Now Israel's at war. Why is Israel at war? They were going to war on me. He can deflect, and that's his strong suit. Debate style. Trump deflects and calls out your policy for being bad and his policy for being good. He doesn't even need to have a policy, but it's better than yours because yours isn't good. I don't need to prove I'm better. I just need to prove that you're bad, and we can do that with foreign policy. Afghanistan, the Taliban wasn't in Afghanistan under Trump. Yes, Trump negotiated with them, but that doesn't matter because after all, Biden let it happen. Biden walked out. Even if Trump would have left, I would have never done it that way. Biden really did it bad, And that's what Trump's going to do. So I think for the debate, if a war breaks out in Lebanon, Trump will be much more favored in the debates than he is if he isn't, because foreign policy Trump's very good with, and foreign policy regarding in the debates he was very good with. If you go back and look at what he said about NATO, what he said about ISIS, what he said about whoever, North Korea, his rhetoric was very powerful in the debates compared to like other issues in 2020. His rhetoric in 2020 was on domestic issues that he was a little bit weaker on, or as president couldn't, he couldn't control, but he couldn't blame anyone else for. So being able to go in as the non-incumbent and talk about something that, as president, he genuinely had very tight grip of, gives him a strong advantage. I mean, Mark, what do you think about this?
I'm gonna be honest. I completely zoned out for like the
No,
last
it's fine.
minute and a half because
How
I
do
was
you
looking
think?
at the Mets. The Mets
That's fine.
won. The Mets beat the Yankees. So
Oh, the Mets won. So how do
the
you think?
Mets.
How do you think foreign policy, if stuff continues to occur, right? Like stuff breaks out continuously. Let's say Israel goes into Lebanon, or the Ukraine more happens in Ukraine. How do you think that plays into the debates? Like not necessarily the debate on Thursday, but just the general conversation going forwards.
Well, I mean, it's big to know that there wasn't any conflict between Russia and Ukraine when Trump was president, though there was the annexation of Crimea under Obama, and there was the war in Ukraine under
Mm-hmm.
Biden's administration.
And
And that
Georgia and
could be
Bush.
sheer coincidence. I'm not going to say that it was because of Trump or it was like Trump had anything to do with it or whatever, but you look at Trump's foreign policy and he does things that some of the things that he does is just completely unheard of. You look at how Trump crossed into the DMZ in North Korea, and he was the first president to ever do so. You look at the peace deals between Israel and the UAE and Saudi Arabia, I think it was. And you look at how Trump brought more peace to the Middle East. You look at how Trump didn't see any conflict in Ukraine and Russia. And while de-escalating tensions between him and other enemies such as Iran and North Korea, and I think it's a very big selling point for the Trump campaign. I think that's definitely one of, if not his strongest suit, because his presidency was highlighted by great foreign policy. You know, he put
Right.
America first. That's how he cultivated the economy before COVID. But he put America first. He got out of the TPP. He got out of the Paris Climate Accords because at the end of the day, he was prioritizing America first, as a typical populist would. So I honestly think it's just I think that Trump really has Biden beat on the foreign policy,
Yeah.
even if Ukraine ends early, even if Ukraine ends, if the war ends in Ukraine, even if the Israel Palestine or Israel Hamas war ends prematurely, I think just Trump has a beat flat out.
Yeah. Primal B says I'm not a fan of the "I'm an answer to all these issues and only me" style argument. I agree. It's not necessarily good to get when you're the incumbent, but as a challenger, it was incredibly effective. I was listening to 2016 Trump debates when I was writing the script, right, for the because I write the scripts, and I noticed that when he was arguing with Bush, I wanted to mention something relative to how he started for debate strategy, and I noticed he kept saying to other people, "That won't work. You can't do that. You're not strong enough. You're not tough enough. Only Donald Trump can do it. You're not good enough," I think was the word I used, um, or not good enough. Do, do you think the two differ a lot in Taiwan policy? On Taiwan itself, the general policy in America is we don't legally recognize them as another country, but I mean, come on, they're another country. Because if we recognize them as China, we have to recognize all of China as Taiwan, and that's a mess. So it's China proper has a lot more than Taiwan does. So we have in terms of who owns more land in China overall. So no, not really. I mean, I don't know enough about the issue to be honest with you, so I don't want to say too much and look like an idiot. But I do think overall, China bad, Taiwan good. Probably all there really is to it. We'll defend Taiwan if we have to. China better not do it. That's I think that's been the policy, Republican and Democrat. All right, and yeah, so I think It's almost 11 o'clock, so I think we are going to call it just because I have to get up early tomorrow. But again, if you haven't already, please go check out the other videos we've already posted. You can check them out on the channel page. Also, please like and subscribe, and go like the other videos and subscribe. We have some great stuff out there. We have the Battle Against Obamacare, which covers the 2009-2013 fight, and the Trump presidency, which covers 2016 through 2020, and covers how Donald Trump became president and what he did as president. It's our videos are historical style, so they're not really like trying to say like here's who you should vote for or here's the policies of the candidates. It's just saying here's how the history played out. So we try to be as unbiased as possible, make it as exciting as possible. Have a good night, probably. And again, please like and subscribe. We will be live again on Thursday, and we will be bringing the stream live on the channel. So definitely be there to check it out. We'll have live coverage, we'll have the debate itself, and we will have live reactions to it, and your live reactions in the chat. So make sure to mark on your calendars Thursday. I think the debate's at 9 o'clock so definitely be there at 9 o'clock. We will be live covering the whole thing and reacting to it afterwards and deciding who won and how it will impact the election. So thank you to Mark for joining the stream tonight. Thank you to everyone who stopped by to watch, who liked, who subscribed, who commented, and gave us interesting things to talk about. Especially Primal B, he half carried the stream. Because God knows me and Mark couldn't talk for 2 hours straight and think of stuff on our own. Mark, remember the football stream?
Football stream.
We ran out of things to talk about because the election results were taking so long. We ended up just watching a football game. Or live reacting to a football game. Waiting for election results to come in.
For hours about sports.
We were just watching. I don't even like sports, but we were like, whoa, the Eagles are picking up steam, or the Jets, or whoever it was. I have 4 viewers.
I had to refrain myself from talking about the Mets. That's all I'll say. I had to refrain myself from talking about the Mets.
So, thank you everyone who gave us something to talk about or gave us things to mention. Please subscribe, check out the videos, and definitely have a good night. I'm just going to quickly change screen. Oh, my computer's frozen again. I'm just going to try to open OBS, but apparently not. Going to keep stalling until OBS. There. Oh, maybe not. Going to open up OBS, change over to this. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Have a great night. And we will see you next time. Bye.